Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. It appears that the Iranian regime has not yet given up on its ring of fire. Now, yesterday on the live stream, and by the way, if you miss any of our live streams, any of our videos, you can watch it here on our archives. Just go to the homepage. While you're there, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. But on yesterday's stream, we talked about the collapse of Iran's ring of fire. Folks, this is indisputable, from Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, Assad's collapse in Syria, the Houthis now being smashed by the Trump administration. And we also mentioned the Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militias and these reports that they were talking about disarming, that they were so frightened of the Trump administration and what could come upon them that they're saying, you know what, we're going to disarm. We'll give up our constant attacks, almost constant until President Trump took office again in January, constant attacks, what had been, against U.S. troops in Iraq. And, oh yeah, launching drones and rockets at Israel from Iraq. We're done with that. That's all behind us. Those were the reports earlier this week, and we talked about them yesterday, and yet we now have new reports out of the UK that, contrary to the previous ones, those Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militias, and there's a bunch of them, tens of thousands of those foot soldiers in Iraq, and they've caused a lot of trouble over the years, they're not disarming. They're actually ramping up. Folks, get a load of this from the Telegraph, I believe, the UK Telegraph newspaper. A disturbing report just today, just reading this off my phone for you. Headline: Iran sends new missiles to Iraqi proxies that were said to be disarming. And these aren't just any missiles. Here's more. The delivery, coming days before nuclear talks with the U.S., we'll talk about that in a second as well, reportedly includes missiles that can reach Europe, in an apparent bid by Iran to reassure what remains of its axis of resistance, its ring of fire. Iran has transferred new long-range missiles to proxy groups in Iraq over the past week, as those other reports were coming out. Clearly some misinformation intentionally put forward by Iran and those Iraqi militias, deflection. And these missile deliveries defy hopes that the anti-American militias would disarm in advance of those nuclear talks with Iran coming Saturday. Again, more on that in a minute. The deliveries to the militias from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Air Force include surface-to-surface missiles that could reach as far as Europe, as well as shorter-range cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, according to, the Times of London, not the Telegraph. And they're citing regional intelligence sources involved in monitoring the Iran-Iraq border. Now, these new long-range models had never before been given to these Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militias, according to this report. They've killed a bunch of U.S. troops and wounded a bunch in Iraq over the years, as we reported here on the newscast. And back in October, a drone launched from Iraq from these militias killed two Israeli soldiers in the Golan Heights. But this is a key move by Iran, in that they're saying to the Ring of Fire, we're still in the game. Just as it looks like Iran was about to completely capitulate and agree to something the Iranian regime has said it would never do, agree to direct nuclear talks with the United States, with the great Satan, in their words. Just as that is happening, and just as that Ring of Fire is in its death throes in many ways, right? And just as we have these reports that even the Iraqi militias are now disarming, the whole Ring of Fire is done from Syria, Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon, and beyond, even Iraq. Just as all of this is unfolding, the Iranian regime, as it often does, throws a monkey wrench into the proceedings. And this is process of elimination, folks. Think about it. Again, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, done. Gaza will never be what it once was. By the time the dust settles, by the time the IDF is done operating there, it will be a new Gaza. Hamas will not be in power. Hamas right now, a shell of its former self, and eventually they will be decisively crushed. Same for Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the two Iranian proxies there. So it doesn't make sense right now for Iran. If Iran's trying to project to the world, we're still alive, we're not dead yet, the Iranian regime, I should say, we're still alive and kicking, we're not as weak as you think, we still can project power throughout the region like we've done for decades, then they're not going to put their money on the Gaza horse because that's done. Same goes for Lebanon now. And Hezbollah was their crown jewel. The crown jewel of all the proxies resided in southern Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah. Hezbollah right now, we're hearing neither hide nor hair from them as, look, they're licking their wounds from the beatdown that Israel delivered throughout the fall, September, October, November 2024, including the death of Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, their number one overall leader. There's even reports today that Hezbollah has suggested it may disarm. Now, I find that highly, highly, highly unlikely. More, again, misdirection and deceit, just as we saw the Iraqi militias potentially disarming, supposedly, and they're clearly not. Don't believe that hype, but do believe that Hezbollah wants no parts of Israel right now. And Israel is monitoring Lebanon so closely right now. And we had U.S. representatives from the State Department in Lebanon this week as well. So Iran looks at Hezbollah and says, nope, that's not a horse we should bet on right now either. Cross Gaza off, cross Lebanon off, at least for now. Look, Iran is feverishly trying to resupply Hezbollah through Beirut, by the way. But Israel, again, has such a close eye on it, and it's acting right away in Lebanon when it sees any Hezbollah activity rear its ugly demonic head. So Gaza, Lebanon, if you're Iran and you're looking for ways to bolster your ring of fire and keep it alive, it's going to be tough to do it through those two countries. Then you've got Syria. No go. Assad overthrown in December. The Sunni jihadis ascendant there now, the al-Qaeda-linked terrorists who now run most of Syria, backed by Turkey, they have essentially evicted Iran and Hezbollah from Syria. Syria's off the board. What about Yemen and the Houthis? The Houthis have been very active over the months, firing missiles at Israel, harassing U.S. shipping and world shipping in the Red Sea. Guess what? We reported just last week, and the video had nearly 300,000 views, that Iran is now pulling out of Yemen. Iranian advisors and members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps were on the ground in Yemen, backing and training and arming the Houthis, and now they've given up on Yemen, reportedly. They're saying, we don't think that the Houthis will survive this onslaught by the United States. I mean, President Trump is hitting them every single day. And it's reminiscent, I said this yesterday on the live stream, of 2016, 17, 18, during President Trump's first term, when he crushed the ISIS caliphate. He came into office promising to do exactly that. He got into office, and he did exactly that. And there was a relentless bombing campaign working with the Kurds, and ISIS was crushed. We see a relentless bombing campaign against the Houthis, and I believe, folks, they are in the process of being crushed as well. Iran sees it. Can't bet on that horse. Yemen, Syria, Gaza, Lebanon, off the board right now. Look, Iran hasn't given up on them completely. It will try to resupply them, but it can't put forth a show of force in those four theaters right now. Iraq is the logical place. Iraq is Iran's next door neighbor, number one. Number two, the Iraqi government's pretty much feckless when it comes to stopping Iranian influence in Iraq. And number three, with those Shia militias, there's tens of thousands of these fanatics backed by Iran. It's the logical place to move your assets if you're the Iranian regime. And we see them doing it reportedly right now. Now, what does this mean for the bigger picture, for the state of play writ large? I think, number one, Europe should be very concerned. And we've talked a bunch here on the newscast over the months, really over the years. I've been talking about it long before YouTube, over the decades. Europe, the cultural suicide road that Europe is heading down as a civilization. And this is one more indicator. Europe has taken a soft line on Iran and radical Islam and jihad as well. Europe, look, they were all for a weak Iran nuclear deal. Europe's been all for mass Muslim immigration coming onto its shores and not requiring these people to assimilate. And now Europe is potentially in sight of Iranian ballistic missiles. And if the Iranian regime has its way, those ballistic missiles would one day be tipped with nuclear warheads. So I think wake-up call for Europe, number one. Number two, Israel obviously watching this closely. As I said a minute ago, these Iraqi militias have Israeli blood on their hands from launching drones and missiles, rockets in previous months, U.S. blood as well. So the U.S. is watching this very closely. I'd say these Iraqi militias are playing a very dangerous game, but Iran is so desperate right now, folks, to say, hey, we're still alive and kicking, the Iranian regime. Because, look, for them to agree to what they've disagreed to for years, that is direct talks with the United States, to suddenly agree to that, and those talks will take place this Saturday in Oman, it looks like they're caving, right? They're caving to the pressure from the Trump administration. They're acknowledging the ring of fire is collapsing. Israel mostly eliminated our air defenses back on October 26th. And we have to grovel and put our tails between our legs and now go into these nuclear talks with the U.S. directly, which we said we never do, in Oman on Saturday. So if you're the Iranian regime, they're saying amongst themselves in their meetings with the supreme leader in Tehran, we got to do something to show everyone we're still strong. We're still the revolutionary Iranian regime. So we'll arm the Iraqi militias. That'll show them. So that's the point that the Ayatollahs are at right now. So, folks, we're watching all this very closely. Saturday, I have it circled on my calendar. Direct nuclear talks. Supposed to be direct. Iran is saying, well, they'll be indirect. The Trump administration says direct. Iran says no. We shall see Saturday in Oman. I would rather these talks be taking place in the UAE or an Abraham Accords nation, but I digress. Folks, look, at the end of the day, final thought here. It's real simple. This is the year of reckoning, 2025. I'm not thrilled about direct talks with Iran right now because I don't want Iran to get the impression that the Trump administration is kind of letting up in Iran's moment of greatest vulnerability, where their nuclear sites, this is the time, if you're going to do it, if you're going to take those sites out. But I do think President Trump is very serious, and Bibi Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, said this as well the other day, when President Trump says, look, we're going to give this a try, and if they refuse to do what we're telling them to do and abandon their nuclear program, I mean wholesale abandonment like Libya did in 2003, dismantling their nuclear sites, and there's several of them scattered throughout Iran, and agreeing to constant inspections, dismantling their ballistic missile program as well. If they don't agree to that, it's not going to be good. There will be military strikes. So this is a place on the road to what I think is probably inevitable, an Israeli strike against Iran sites, with or without U.S. involvement. Certainly they'd have U.S. support, I believe, and a green light from President Trump. But, folks, I wish it were so. I wish Iran, look, I wish the jihadi leopards would change their spots and give up their nuclear program. I just don't see it. I can't see any scenario under which the Iranian regime completely dismantles its nuclear weapons program that it's worked on for decades. That would be the ultimate humiliation for the Ayatollahs, and I do not think they would survive it one way or the other. They would eventually be overthrown after that happens. But here's the good news. They could also be overthrown after a strike on their nuclear sites. Either way, the Iranian regime loses, and that's a good thing for Israel, America, and the free world. So be encouraged. Hey, thanks for joining us for this shorter breakdown today. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Until then, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.